everybody, John here, and today onto the garage we are going inside the ABS unit. Hi everyone. Yeah, this is part 2 on this ABS control unit saga. For those who didn't see the first episode, get back there and watch it. But the executive summary is the ABS control unit has failed in my 1996 Jaguar XK8. I've removed it and now we're going to go inside it and repair it. This is our black box. It's called an ABS control unit. It's made by ATE. That's a brake manufacturer, ATE. This one's an LJA2210AH. Control unit ABS, standing for anti-lock braking system, and TCS, traction control system. Now on my car, the failure that's occurred is that the ABS and traction control lights come on reasonably often nowadays. It's probably every couple of weeks. So it's an intermittent fault that's getting worse. And when you read the fault codes, it talks about the ABS motor failure and a front left wheel speed sensor failure. As explained in the first video, I have already diagnosed those two items out of the equation. And so it's probably this unit that's failing. The primary way that these go, it throws up that code that says ABS motor failure. And all it is, these two terminals take power from this unit and supply them out to the motor, which is just here, not very far away at all, and fire it up to work the ABS. The connections inside this box to the circuit board to these two terminals become dry, which is kind of the electrical term for oxidized. They become brittle, the solder cracks, and you get an intermittent or less than healthy connection. You can have the motor fail, but the motors don't tend to fail intermittently. They either work or they don't. This area here has spade terminals that pick up the power from the car, and the majority of these pins are taking signals from the wheel speed sensors and a few other bits and pieces sensors within the car. So they're detecting whether the wheels are moving or not and what speeds they're going at. I've got a front left wheel speed sensor down. Chances are, because I know that the wheel speed sensor is okay, that when I get inside, some of the soldering on the back of these is equally oxidized, cracked, fatigued, and just needs a little bit of resoldering. So this sounds like the easiest job in the world. Well, it is, except this is a sealed unit. It was never meant to be serviced by us mere humans. So how are we going to get inside here? Let's first address there's a hack that a lot of people do. I'm not knocking it. It's an approach I could take if I wanted to. And that is to cut a hole in the lid here, and that will give you access to the area above these terminals. And when I do assembly, you'll be able to see exactly where your hole needs to be. But to cut that, you've got to remember there's a delicate circuit board in there, so you don't want to be drilling through and making a mess. You'll have to use a hole saw with no center pilot drill and stop it from going in too deep. So you've got to use a bit of care. And once you've done that, you've obviously got a cover with a hole in. So you need to glue that piece of plastic back into place or put a sticker over it or something like that. I'm going to take the lid off. Let's say it's not meant to come off. Let's start with, can you see these tubes? They are just to stop the bolts which hold this in place from crushing the plastic. And they are essentially bonded, glued, shrunk fit. They're stuck to this plastic. But at the top, they've got one-way push-on barbed washers. Now, getting these back off is the devil's own game. You might be able to put something under it and lever it off. So I'm going to try, and if not, I've got a diamond burr on my Dremel, and I will just cut the washer, and then it'll come off real easy. So I've got a straight blade small screwdriver, and I'm just going to see if it's possible to get an edge up and lift this thing. Because if it is, that's the quickest, easiest way to remove it. And I'll deploy tactic number 2. Well, that one don't want to move. They're down very, very tight. They are very, very small. So I didn't anticipate being able to get under them. I could hack into the plastic to do so, but you know, you can step by step see what's the easiest way of doing things. No, it's not going to happen. There we go. And as you can see, as soon as it cut through, it just popped off. There we are. So all 4 removed. So now, with these off, theoretically, you can lift the lid off, leaving the tubes behind. However, this is heat staked and sealed, i.e. one time only, onto the main body. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a cut-off wheel on a Dremel or other rotary tool and cut round this gap. And in doing so, what I'm going to try to do is not cut through the little aluminium tubes, because they're useful to align the thing when you're putting it back on. So doing my best not to cut those or mark them up too much, but I do want to cut all the way around. It's got a Dremel multi-tool, so not saying the brand is important at all, it's just, what's the term, eponymous. Most rotary tools are called Dremels. Not all rotary tools are Dremels. So you can pop that in there. And what I could do is go around here, freehand, and I'll do a damn decent job. However, I've got another little gadget. Of course I have. I like a gadget. I've got a Dremel router mounting, and what that's going to allow me to do is set the depth on this and follow a little bit more accurately, leaving me with a nice crisp line. So I'm just going to set this up. I'm going to just slide that down into there, clamp her into place. And then what I can do is set the depth, well, not far off straight away, using this little arrangement on here to make sure that the blade is going in precisely where that groove is. So I just slacken that off, make my adjustment using this screw. There we go. I don't know if you can see, but I have broken through there. Okay, boys and girls, real time, I reckon that took me less than 10 minutes, but yeah, I was being careful, going nice and steady. Lots of burr and molten plastic there hanging off the edge. There's probably a few little bits still connected, but at this stage, just make note, if you haven't already, of how much of this tube is sticking out. Now mine, it's 1.5 millimeters. It's probably the same on all of them, but I'm just saying I've measured it and you've got 1.5 mil sticking out. Why? Because you've cut the width of your cutting disc away, and if you squeeze this back together later, it's going to sit smaller, tighter. So you need to put it back at a similar position, so about 1.5 millimeters for me. What I'm going to do now, just going to get I don't think I will use a screwdriver actually. I'm going to use a trim tool, because plastic, and we're going to go inside and we're just going to lever to break some of the little connections with the lid, and where there's anything really substantial, obviously I'll go back around with a saw. When you're cutting through, the level of the circuit board is below here, it's below that edge, but obviously you've got little spikes and tails and things standing up. So if you're going to bias in any direction, go higher, you know, cut into the lid rather than the base. And if you're going to lever, don't push something a long way and push down, you might damage something. So if you're going to lever down like that. And if you can see, I'm actually lifting the original bond in there. Okay, so you can see I've got it coming off. And there we are, we're out. All of this waste material can be picked off. We can clean up moulding so that we'll be able to reinstall it later. Shake out all the bits of swarf and just going to pick out again all the plastic bits, stop them falling in and contaminating the crime scene. So I'm just going to have a happy 10 minutes now picking away at this, getting rid of all the bits of plastic, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so this is where the investigation work begins. Now, the most likely area that we're looking for is these two pins, which are by this kink in the casing. And they're just the back of these two pins that take the power to the motor. Now, you've got this sort of rubbery feeling, silicon feeling, coating all over the circuit board. And that's there to protect all the components and give it a little bit of shock resistance, abrasion resistance, keep it from getting damp. But in order to examine these carefully, it needs to go. Now that's a lot easier than you might imagine. Get yourself a little bit of something like brake cleaner. I'm going to squirt some in a tub. Little paintbrush. And the area you're interested in, just put a little bit of the liquid on. Don't go mad. And if you can get to an edge, there you go. See, it's dissolving it pretty much straight away. Well, I say dissolves it, it degrades it. Then you can peel it off really easily. Now, I wouldn't suggest you immediately rip this off everything on the circuit board because it's doing a job. But where you need to examine or repair, you need to take it off. Being very careful with this screwdriver. I'm kind of flicking and lifting. I'm not scraping because I don't want to damage anything, and I don't want to affect the crime scene, as I put it, because there may be clues under here as to whether or not you found the fault. Oh, sorry if the sound's been a bit odd. Microphone had fallen off. There we go. Just merest bit of dampness on the end of the brush, just to degrade the stuff a little. Could do with some tweezers really, couldn't I? Ah, there you go, it's finally failed. There we go. Now for the trick, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get you a good view, so I've got a big magnifying glass. There are little cracks, not big, but enough to give a variation in the voltage and therefore an intermittent fault. So that might be, it's the one closest to me, the reason for the motor fault. Now, these pins here are the ones that go for the wheel speed sensors. Oh, I'm good to you guys. I've been sat here with my cup of coffee, working out mirror image pin numbers for all the terminals on the circuit board. And as we know, my motor fault came up when I tested the car, and a front left-hand wheel speed sensor circuit problem. And that is the top left, or 17 and 18 terminals, which is top of this little bundle, top 2 terminals. And then I've rigged up a mobile phone with a very strong light and a small gap, so I can hopefully show you soldering or resoldering these joints. So we're going to crack on and have a go at that now, and then I'll move on to resoldering the top left, or terminals 17 and 18 up there. Okay, I'm using some multi-core solder, nothing clever. I've got a nothing clever soldering iron. This is a Silverline 230 volt, 50 hertz, 25 watt. I've cleaned the area around the terminals using a cotton bud with a little bit of alcohol on. And now let's crack on and see if I can do something with this joint. Actually, in that shot, I think you can see, you're not at the perfect angle, but you can see the cracks sort of here. Anyway, let's see what we can do. I'm going to pop a little bit of solder on a soldering iron now, which will clean it. Also give me, in effect, a flux, which will improve the contact area between my iron and the joint. I'm no soldering expert, by the way, so take everything I do on this with a pinch of salt. There are far better people to talk to about soldering and electronics than me. chances are just warming it like this will improve the contact sufficiently that we won't get a fault code. But what I'm going to do, once we think we've got it warm, I'm watching on the back of the camera too because it's the best magnifying glass, is we're just going to add a little bit of solder in. A little bit, he says, and look at what happened. There we go. Now the solder's moving on its own. As I said, this terminal here and this terminal here are the ones that seem to be causing me problems. So again, if we can get underneath this coating, all will be great. Very thin round here. So just running my screwdriver around it very gently. Should peel off most of it. It's almost too thin there. ABS control modules on lots of cars have these same issues. It's not a Jaguar issue. This is just an age of electronics problem. So if you've got a similar issue on another mature car, you might be able to solve it in exactly the same way. The layout inside the module will be very different, I'm sure, but the issues are the same. Okay, that's off all the terminals that I'm interested in. Well, none of these look bad in the same way that the power terminals did, so I'm going to satisfy myself by just warming up, particularly the offending one, which is, sorry if you're swaying, you're zoomed in a lot, which is this one. There we go, that's re-melted. And this one, and there we go. Theoretically, that's now fixed. We can do a couple of little checks for continuity, but we won't know for sure until we put the thing back together. It's worth at this stage just spending a bit of time examining the board. I'm not going to strip all of the coating off, that's for sure, but using what I can see through the relatively transparent coating, you're looking for anything burnt, leaking, discoloured, and if you find something, see if you can clean it up, resolder it. So occasionally you're going to end up replacing a component, and once you get into chips and the like, you know, maybe it's beyond your skill set. It needs to go somewhere where they know what they're doing. So if you're lucky enough to have a nice multimeter, you can either just put it on continuity beep, and then we start off with these two that we've resoldered, and you put one of the terminals on the pin at the back and one of the terminals on here, and if you get a continuity beep, then you know that that is connected to the thing at the back, and you can run along all the things that you've connected or resoldered, touching the pin on the back and the pin on the front, and seeing if you've got a good connection. Now that's one level. The next level is you could put this onto ohms, or that little symbol there, and that will read out the actual resistance from the terminal to the circuit board, and you're generally looking for 0.2, 0.3 ohms to be good. This is going to come out at 0.2. The next one, it says open line, which means I'm not connected, which probably means I'm not touching the right places, as we already know it works. There we go. 0.2. And you could go along all these pins, and if you find one that's got a higher resistance, then maybe give that another little tickle with a soldering iron. Whether or not the solder gives a perfect connection to the track in the circuit board is a separate level of complexity, and probably not for us in this video. We've done what we can. My next step would be to blow this out with a dry air line, make sure there's no debris in there, pop my lid back on, and we've got these tubes to act as dowels, so that's all located perfectly, but we've got this gap. And I would be reaching for a tube of Sikaflex right now, or other sealant of your choice that is appropriate for an automotive environment, quite harsh, to reseal this. But I'm in the UK, and if you haven't noticed at the moment, we're having a few storms. I'll just see if I can see anything if we open our door. Not really, because it's really dark. But you might be able to hear, I'm not sure. I've got a decent wind muff on. It's blowing a hoolie. It's only about 3:30, but it's UK, and I'm in the north, allegedly. So we've got no daylight left. So I'm going to have to leave this for another day so that I can pop out, get some sealant. I was going to do that job earlier, obviously, get the sealant in before I even cut this open. But just the weather hasn't been with it, and I thought I'd like to give you guys the next stage in the video. But theoretically, she's fixed. So next time I see you, I will show you how I'm going to reseal this, and for the magic of YouTube, you won't have to wait for it to dry. We'll put it back into the car, and we'll see if we can get any error codes to come up, and hopefully that is an almost free fix. Yes, if you're lacking a few tools, you might have to buy them. It'll cost me the sealant for going around the edges and a little bit of solder. That's about the size of it. Other than that, it's just some time and a little bit of effort. Hope you're enjoying that, guys. Quite a few of you have been with the channel a long time, and there's a lot of other engineers, manufacturing folk out there who know what I do for a living. So I'm in the world of lean, business strategy, people development, team leaders, all that sort of good stuff in manufacturing plants across the country. An awful lot of them are car parts manufacturers, hence my passion and a little bit of my inside knowledge on certain little bits and bobs. But like you guys, I'm just an enthusiast who loves their Jags. However, with a couple of my colleagues, I've been doing a podcast just chatting about very light-heartedly some of the philosophy and secrets behind our world of lean. If that's something that lights your candle and you can't get enough of me and my mates rambling away together, then check that out. Just search on YouTube for The Rest is Lean. And if you choose to subscribe to that channel as well, that's great. But that's kind of a separate entity and isn't even something that I own. I just participate in. Right, I'm going in because I'm cold and my feet have gone numb. So I will see you guys real soon on to the garage when we have the final part of this particular little saga. If you just go to Amazon/shop/to the garage, and I'll put that link in the description below so that you can just click on it. it takes you to the garage area of Amazon that is categorized into hand tools, power tools, gadgets and gizmos, things specifically the XK8, etc. that I've bought from Amazon over the years, so that you can follow the same links and have a look, see how much those cost at the moment. Nice little feature. Thank you, Amazon. If you're enjoying our channel, then don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell icon so you get notifications of new videos. And please give us a thumbs up or thumbs down, and you can share the videos. And below the video is always the area where you can comment and get involved with the chat.